I learned at a young age, like many other immigrants, grit and how hard work has to happen so that you have the means to survive. Fully translated into why success, it's not an option. We have to succeed because of all the things that, my parents sacrificed to come here.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. Welcome to the show. So I have Jenny Gou with me, and I actually know her. She's presented at my club. I know her through Bronson, but honestly, I've never had a chance to just hang and chat with you. Like, this is our first chance to really do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I find out. For our listeners, let's just kind of start with bottom line your history. So tell us a little bit about where you started and what your mastery is today.
Yeah, and
in real
first off,
estate.
I'm a huge fan of you, so thank you for having me on the show. It's such a great honor, and I'm excited for this conversation as well. But for the listeners, a
Cool.
brief history. So I'm a retired or recovering salesperson, I like to call it. I spent 13 years in corporate America. I worked for a company called Procter Gamble on the sales side, and that's where I actually met my husband Ronnie. And we lived in the Midwest at the time, and just decided to diversify, just because we had all of our retirement at P&G and in profit
Mm.
sharing. So we started with single families, like I'm sure many of you guys have done. Started with traditional single
Mm-hmm.
family long-term rental homes, and after accumulating about 10 of them, we caught the bug and started learning about multifamily, and then the rest is history. I moved to California back 4 years ago to be closer to Ronnie and his family specifically, and found a mentor. And now today, VSV has about $350 million of assets under management, and we're so
Say that again. VSV has how much under management? Because you've gone from like, oh yeah, we were just this to this, and I want this to be really
yes,
clear.
350 million of dollars of assets under management. Correct. Yeah. So the rest is history.
Exactly. And so that's not really a simple story, I suspect, having invested in real estate for a while for myself. That has some twists and turns. But let's start with this one. Tell me about the moment you decided that you were going to use real estate to break through to your financial freedom. When was that moment? Were you still working at Procter and Gamble? When was that?
It's so vivid when you make these life-altering decisions. Um, and
Right.
I can remember exactly where we were sitting. So Ronnie and I, more than 5 years ago, were at his sister's wedding here in California. It was in the NorCal area. And we had two young kids at the time. So we were flying back and forth to visit family quite a bit throughout the year. And we woke up during the day after the wedding, and we were just tired. We were exhausted. And the kids were still on East Coast time. So you know how that goes when they wake up at 3 o'clock every morning. But yeah,
Yes.
we woke
Yes.
up and we said, you know what? It has been so nice being around so much family, and we're just tired of having to travel back and forth. And Ronnie's dad had lung cancer a few years back, and thankfully he's
Mm,
recovered and doing quite well. But we just
thankfully.
wanted to prioritize family, and we just finally decided to put our, money where our mouth is and make the move to leave Cincinnati and move back to California. And because we had great income on the single family side, it made up for a good
Mhm.
amount of my salary so that I could be the one to leave and Ronnie stayed behind at
Okay.
P&G for the stability and the insurance and all that stuff. So that was the moment we decided that I would leave corporate America and pursue this full time.
I love that. I really do. I love that. I have a client they both work and they both have pretty high tech jobs, high
Mhm.
pressure jobs. And the conversations have been about how can she step down so she can take over being basically the full-time investor in order to earn enough income coming in so they both can take it as a full-time job, or at least both stop working in their high pressure jobs. And what is it's just difficult. It's a little like if your job doesn't feel like it's part of your life's purpose, it feels like it's taking something from you instead of you giving to the world. It just gets, I don't know your experience, but it can be exhausting or disappointing, or
Yeah.
you tell me. What
Yeah,
was your experience?
my dad passed away when I was 24. And it was a year after we got married. And that was the first life event, or I guess really first passing of a close by relative, in this case, very close, that made me change my perspective. And unfortunately, that's typically what happens. A life event happens where it just shakes you a little bit and makes you rethink what your priorities are. And I think for a lot of folks today, unfortunately, that needs to happen before they make a different life choice. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can decide what freedom means to you now and put the things in place to get there sooner rather than later. Because with that experience and a couple others I'm happy to share, I just, I don't want to wait till I'm 65 to retire and travel the world and do what I want with whoever I want whenever I want to. So, absolutely.
It's hard to not ask about those other experiences because I'm sure they're particularly rich in their value. Um, so tell me another one
Yeah,
quickly,
yeah,
and then I'll
sure.
I'll go back to my yeah.
Things
Tell me
happen
another
in
one.
threes. I think I like to say a lot of things happen in threes. So my dad passed away when I was 24, very young.
Okay.
When my oldest son Jackson was 3 and my daughter was just shy of 1, we were in a really bad car accident, where he ended up
Okay.
needing rods and screws in his neck. But it was bad. Where
Mm,
I mean, blood was coming down. I thought he was gone. I thought that was it. So
mm,
that happened, and thankfully
yeah.
he's fine now. We got the rods and screws out. He's healthy. And then my father-in-law having lung cancer twice, so he has 2 half lungs. Um, and so just between the 3 of those things, it just didn't make sense for us to chase after, climbing corporate America to do what? To get promoted and work more and be more stressed. So we just decided we wanted to change our lives, and that's where, real estate has been such an instrumental part of that.
And it is in that it's truly an entrepreneurial area. Like you can truly define for yourself inside of real estate what you want to do, what fills your talents, what fills your skills, and what fulfills your sense of purpose. And then you can choose an asset class and a way you're going to participate with that asset class and what your returns are like. But it's so vast. It's like, people saying, oh, I have to start in residential. I have to start as a wholesaler. And I'm like, oh, really? You have no idea how big the real estate field is if that's your understanding of it. Like it's either residential or wholesaling. I'm like, there's a lot of other things
Yeah.
you could be doing, right? There's notes, there's non-performing notes, there's, tax liens, there's, seller financing, there's land, there's zoning, there's so many things you can participate in, which leads to my next question, which is what in your history, either talent or skill, helped prepare you for success today?
Uh, I my family, we were immigrants, and I was actually born in a refugee camp in the Philippines. So my parents are Vietnamese. They were the
Mm,
boat people that you probably learned about in school, leaving the war, afterwards. But they escaped in the middle of the
mm,
night, hopped on a boat with their sardines like this next to 300 other people on a small boat. And yeah, I was born in a refugee camp, and we immigrated to Canada when I was 1, and have just the whole story. Nothing in your pockets. Parents work multiple jobs. So I learned at a young age, like many other immigrants, grit and how hard work has to happen so that you have, the means to survive, and then the value of a dollar, right? Being so poor, when we
mm,
were growing up, and so all of that growing up with what my parents instilled in me fully translated into why success is not an option. It's not an option. We have to succeed, because of all the things that my parents sacrificed to come here. And so that is always in my mind, and that's so hard to teach our kids. They're so spoiled, every one of
well,
them. And
yeah.
so that's something that we've been wanting to prioritize to teach our kids. How do we teach the future generations the value of a dollar? How to budget? How to be personally financially savvy? All of that. So really growing up with that background has helped me tremendously in this industry.
Maybe we should have a parents
Yeah.
real estate club conversation because it's a common, like we have
Yeah.
ambition, like I have my ambition for my own reasons, right? So I was a special ed kid. I was put in special ed. I was throwing books, so I got diagnosed. I was put in special ed classes, so I was the loser kid on the loser bus, right? And I know what it meant to fail. I know what it meant to try to succeed. School was never very easy. I do have a bachelor's. I do have a teacher's credential. I do have a master's. So I managed to get through it all. But there's that ambition that's inside of me that makes me just keep showing up. But there's also a joy of like, no, I really love doing this. Like, it's not just real estate. I love the people and I love the interaction and I love the sense of purpose. And so it's because I've been in an environment where it was all about books and all about how you perform and all about how smart you are. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to play. I perform to make you happy to get money. I want to be able to follow a sense of passion, a sense of ambition inside of my talent, inside of my skill set. Because in school, I wasn't my talent and it wasn't my skill set. Right. So I know what it's like to try to perform and do well in an area that's not set up for your particular picadillos.
Yeah,
Put it that
exactly.
way. But my daughter's growing up with money and schools that support her, and she's ADHD and dyslexic too. So she's in a school that's for ADHDs and dyslexics, and so she doesn't have to, like, she complains about school, and I'm like, yeah, well, you don't, you're in a really good, like, I don't know what else to do to make your life easier for you, because this is like as easy as it's going to get, and still have you be in school, still have you be learning, still have you be practicing some sense of rigor. So I'm with you. I mean, not that her life has all been easy peasy. She's had some hard stuff, but not necessarily on the home front is where her
Right.
hard stuff has been. It's been on other
Right.
fronts. But yeah, the value of a dollar, the value of your time, and the value of grit. All right. So if that's what's helped you for your success, your secret sauce for your success for yourself, what's the secret sauce of your company? I mean, you guys have 350 million under asset, and that's not an easy thing to achieve. We all throw our numbers around. Oh, 50 million, 300 million. It's not easy to achieve. So tell me about how you got there and what's the secret sauce of your company that gets you there.
It's a great question. And I want to reiterate that it has not been easy. What we put out on social media, our newsletters, when people think of our company, and I've had a lot of people tell us, wow, you guys are phenomenal and you've grown so much, but that's what we put out to see. And I want to be fully transparent. It has not been easy. And there's been so much ups and downs, and just life as an entrepreneur. It's so much harder than I thought. Actually, I don't know if you know Brian Briscoe. I was chatting with him. He's another owner operator as well. And I said, gosh, Brian, it's so hard being an entrepreneur. And I hope people know that, because everyone, I think, in their mind thinks, you're an entrepreneur and you get to do whatever you want when you want. And he's like, no, Jenny, people know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. That is why there's not that many of us. And I'm like, oh, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. But I guess, long story short, I think the success or the secret sauce to a successful company, and with us in particular, it's really cliche, but it's really the people. Okay. It's the people that you bring on board. And we have vetted out our partners, and we are now much more stringent on who we hire and bring to the team. It's because our people, or your people, are just your greatest assets. And then take it one step further, it is the culture that you build on your team, because many people know this. Number one reason why people leave a company is because of their relationship with their manager. Okay. So we harness that as much as we can. And we have feedback loops, and we have checks and balances, and we have systems and processes. And that's what I think really sets us up for success. And again, we've made mistakes too with people, but for the most part, we've had some pretty big slam dunks. But the people is crucial for you to, one, get up and running, and then two, if you want to accelerate your business.
They are. People are crucial, and it's easy to, like, people talk about shiny objects in real estate all the time. Oh, do I do this or do I do that? Do I do single family? Do I do multifamily? Do I do, like, all the notes, all the things I talked about earlier? But it's also easy to do shiny objects with people too.
Yep.
Right? It's like, oh, they talk such a big game and they seem to know so much and they seem da da da. But there's talking so much that I almost kind of go, So, how many deals have you done full cycle? Tell me about a deal that went wrong and how you solved it. Like I really try to dig into, well, who's the person underneath the talking? Because that's ultimately that character and integrity is what I'm relying on for whatever position they're going to be in. I'm relying on that capacity in them to be a forward thinker, to be focused on problem solving versus problems. Right? Oh, here's your problem. Here's your problem. Here's your problem. I'm like, great. You can identify my problems all day long. Where's my solutions? Right? Are you forward thinking? Are you going to come up with a solution? Can you show up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be, okay, we're going to come up with a good plan? Like,
100%.
right? That takes it takes a certain amount of grit, maybe difficulty in the background, maybe willingness to work hard, determination,
Yeah, yeah, I
something.
100% agree with that, and that's in any job, really, it's not just this industry, any job that you work with. You don't wanna be the downer where you're always coming with the problem. Even at P&G, like, the people that worked with me, I'm happy to help. I always say that. But when you come to me with an issue, I wanna hear what your 3 ideas are first. So I wanna know that you've put in the
Mm-hmm.
effort to think about the solution, not just come with me with a problem and expect me to solve it for you, right? That's why I hired you. That's your job to find the solution. And so that's super important when we interview folks or when we work with other potential partners is that you have to get to know them first and not just at the surface level, to your point, Christina, but um, we get to know what they like to do, especially when we vetted. When I first met Steve Louie, who was actually my mentor first and now my partner, I met his family. His
Yeah,
girls babysat my
yeah.
kids. Like, you just need to get to know them
Ah,
at a deeper level because everything is
yeah.
fine when things are going well. But when things hit the fan, you want to know how you guys solve problems together and operate and what your values are. And so we got to experience a little bit of that before we actually ended up partnering together. But that is critical for a long-term marriage in business, if you will.
That's right. The
Yeah.
long-term marriage and business. And I think for me, and I don't, then I'll move on to the next question. I think for me, it was the willingness to be honest with
Yeah.
myself about what I was seeing, right? Because I like people, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're not, oh well, no, and and it's like, well, I want to just be, if I can, just some version of like discerning without judgment one way or the other. Judgment for or judgment against. I want to be able to go, this is what I've noticed about them is that in these situations, they really seem to show up. This is what I've noticed about them. These are really their strengths. When they come up against a situation, here's what they bring to the table, right? And it's a discerning without judgment clouding, positive or negative judgment, clouding what I think of them, trying to force my observations into a box.
Yeah, it
Does that make
absolutely
sense?
does.
So, all right. So, right now, what do you feel like that your industry is facing?
Oh, so many things. So many
I know it's a big
uh,
question. This year it's a big
Yeah, I mean,
question.
everything that you've probably heard of. So, we've had lots of challenges with the interest rates, right? That impacts everything. I can't think of an industry where interest rates don't impact them. So, obviously, the interest
Right.
rates, inflation has impacted us, which drives a lot of costs up. So, labor, materials, everything related to construction and operations, for all of that has gone up. It's hard to hire people. It is so hard to find good people, good, talented, hardworking people. So we struggle with that from I think, a property side too, as well as finding good people for VSV. So all of those challenges have transpired over the last 12 to 18 months, and I fully expect that to continue for at least another year. I don't have a crystal ball; mine's always cloudy, but but I think that a lot of people would agree with that, and that we're not in the
Yeah.
clear anytime soon. I think we've got a tough year ahead. But with
Okay.
that, I would say changes that I think have been interesting on the apartment side. I'll share a little story. We just had
Hmm.
a weekend where we have an academy where we teach other people how to be syndicators, but we had an event this weekend. We had a broker panel. And one of the questions we asked them was, hey, you guys see everything in terms of assets. What have been some interesting new trends that you've seen in amenities for apartments? And this blew my mind, Christina, I kid you
Okay.
not. They said specifically for Class A's, they have started to see amenities like TikTok rooms, influencer rooms, podcasting rooms. That has become a little bit more popular, specifically for Class A's, brand new buildings, of course. But can you
Right.
believe that?
Right,
I,
right,
I
right, right, right.
couldn't imagine. So now that's an amenity that people can use in their apartments if that's something they're interested in. Um, it
Fascinating.
really,
Okay, that was truly a side note, but it is a change in
yeah,
your industry. But it does fall under that change, and I have not heard anybody else say. I mean, generally it's washer and dryers
yeah,
in the units instead of
yeah,
not in the units, extra storage
yeah,
space, of having your own parking space, a better community room, or
exactly.
community parties,
Yeah,
or no, TikTok room or wine. It can be wine
there you go.
refrigerators, right? If you're in an A-class property, wine refrigerators, a separate bar in the living room so you can host people in the living room and the
Yeah,
kitchen. But that's I've
I know.
never,
It
no,
blew our
that's a
minds.
first.
But one of the things that we are trying to change the industry, okay? So you can only
Thank you.
control what you can.
Get
Um,
back to
yep.
VSB.
And
Yep.
so we typically buy Class B properties, okay, in good neighborhoods. And so
Mhm.
one thing that we've launched this year is what we call residents first. And fundamentally, pay to play in this industry, you have to do those resident appreciation events, right? You have to make sure your residents are happy at the bare minimum. I think that's just basics. But we are taking this to the next level, and a couple reasons. One, this is a people first
Mhm.
industry. So there should be no reason why we're not building relationships with our residents as well. And there should be no reason why only our investors or our lender or the operator should benefit from a syndication. We want our residents to benefit as well. And so residents first is a two-prong initiative. One is, from their first step onto the property to the moment that they leave, how do we ensure that their experience is the best possible? Work orders, those monthly events, just interaction and customer service, all of that, we've beefed it up.
Mhm.
But I'm really excited about the second component, and it's that we are putting together a financial wellness roadmap. So if you think about,
Okay.
our Class B residents, they're typically working 2 jobs, 3
Mhm.
jobs, paycheck to
Mhm.
paycheck. They typically have families, and so we are helping them break out of that cycle by doing more financial education for our residents, working with local communities and bringing webinars and putting together a wellness roadmap to help them improve their credit score, find a side hustle to help their
Mhm.
kids learn the basics of a credit score. So things like that we're rolling
Mhm.
out right now. So I think that is something that we can truly impact and change on this industry. And if everyone listening today can do the same for their apartments, that is a success for us. And so we're hopefully going to put together this roadmap that more people can follow and change it from that aspect, because happy residents means less turnover, which is the highest expense on a property, one of the highest ones. And it also means it'll
Hmm.
attract
Yeah.
better residents as well.
Well said, and I love the plan. I love the plan is it gives to the community, like we talked about, having jobs that don't have a sense of purpose. Real estate allows you to be an entrepreneur. You can engage in real estate in a way that's aligned with your talents, with your skills, and your sense of purpose. And now you're adding that sense of purpose inside of what you're doing. Helping community almost always has some sense of purpose associated with it because it's not
Right.
just bottom line, right? So it's that's beautiful, and I love the initiative and where you're going with that. Um, do you feel like that's going to help you manage tenant loyalty? Do you feel like it's going to help you manage the upcoming recession that we're looking at? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I believe that when you feel like you are part of a community, you take care of it better and you treat it more like your own. And so, does it help with retention and loyalty? Absolutely. Now, you just kicked it off, so we don't have the numbers to fully support that yet. We're tracking it.
Yeah,
Yep, we
exactly.
will
It's okay.
track it
Yeah.
very closely, but absolutely, I firmly believe that it will help reduce turnover and it will attract the right residents moving forward. Because if this goes the way that we anticipate it going, VSV communities will be known for resident experience and resident education and truly improving and taking the property up to a next level. Now, from a recession standpoint, I think that's a little tougher to answer. I
Yep.
mean, honestly, if we do come into a full recession, it is going to be tough on properties. Our delinquencies have
Mhm.
ticked up a little bit. Our vacancy
Okay.
has definitely ticked up a little bit, depending on the submarket and the property. So we are starting to see a little bit of that.
Sure.
But man, doesn't this program help eliminate some of that risk by having better residents on site?
Mhm.
So I think it does go hand in hand. I'm not saying we're not going to be impacted. We will be, but whatever we're doing to lessen that impact, we're absolutely doing.
What other plans do you have maybe to help lessen that impact or to shift or fine tune your trajectory in investing? Given that I think we're seeing a recession, I haven't done the numbers in the last 2 weeks, so I'm a little behind on my current data, which is not unusual for me, but that's fine. But what do you think? How are your company, how's VSV going to be prepared for an upcoming recession? How's that going to shift the way you guys operate or
Yeah, so
invest?
from a recession standpoint, we are speeding up our renovations even faster so that we can
Okay.
drive that market rent to where it should be even faster. So, if you delay your business plan, you're going to expose yourself to more risk of the market continually changing or even accelerating in the direction that you don't want it to go. So,
Mhm.
we're moving very quickly on our business plans. One of the things, we just acquired a property just less than 2 weeks ago. We just closed on a property, and we have a
Okay.
construction team, a construction manager. So we do a lot of things in house. We expect all of our exterior renovations to be done within the first 30 days. Like, we're already clipping through
Nice.
as much of the exterior stuff as we can. 2 units have already been installed within less than 2 weeks of washer dryers. So that's an example of how fast we're trying to move now so that we get things done
Mhm.
faster, in preparation of a downturn that's worse than what we expect.
So I'm assuming your lending is also following that same philosophy that whatever loan you have against this property you just got, is it have a shorter timeline or a longer timeline in order to
Yeah,
manage risk?
last year we bought 7 properties. We closed on 7 properties. A handful of those were the bridge loans. We did protect ourselves with rate
Mhm.
caps, thankfully. Um,
Good.
but
Yes. Yes. Good
yeah,
job. Good job.
yes. Whoo, that was a nerve wracking one, right? Um, These
Yeah.
2, so part of our fund that we have right now are these 2 deals. One we just closed 2 weeks ago, the other one will close in later in October, but they were loan assumptions. So these are the first 2 deals we've purchased this year. We've been on the sidelines because we needed to be. We just nothing was penciling out. Finally found these 2
Yeah.
deals. They're amazing loan assumptions. We just closed one that was a
Mhm.
2.6 fixed for the next 5 years. The next property we could close on in October is a 3.3 fixed for the next 5 years, and
Nice.
so that protects
Okay.
us.
Are you still raising money for those? Because I know some people that might be
Yes.
like, oh, I want because I mean I know investors who are hesitant to jump into the multifamily market because it's rough waters right now. But the loan assumption is one of the
Yes.
best ways to be able to manage the rough waters that are happening of the
Yeah,
interest
we
rates. So
are. Yeah, so we are
that's
so
fine.
it's a fund. We are still raising capital for that. Um, and, I'll tell you, the we got financials before we closed, and both properties are performing at our month 13 projections already. Okay, so we're yeah,
Oh,
it's a tap dance for us
nice.
because, or a happy dance, not a tap dance, a happy dance for us because 'cause we're already hitting
Okay.
past year 1 numbers, at takeover, so they're gonna be cash flowing nicely.
Lovely. I rarely see that, but every once in a while I do see that. There was an industrial property I invested in that had the same sort of thing happen. I was like, oh, lovely. You
Yeah.
gotta love that, right? Okay, so this. I'm gonna ask you two questions. Tell me about a deal that went right, and then later I'm gonna ask you about telling me about a deal that went wrong. But first, tell me about a deal that went right, and how did you or your company set it up for success?
Yeah. There has not been a deal where it has gone 100% smoothly. Okay. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't, and that's
yes.
good to say that people need to know. In real estate, there is rarely a deal like 1 out of 20 that actually goes relatively smooth. The rest is about problem solving and
Yeah.
forward
So,
thinking.
yeah, I'll preface with that. Nothing ever goes 100% smoothly. Everything is last minute.
Okay, good.
Things that have gone well, the deals when I think about this in hindsight, the ones that have gone well, because we have 17 active properties right now, the ones that have gone well, I can attribute to strong communication between all parties, um,
Mhm.
planning down to minor details, okay, and having the systems and
Okay.
processes to track everything. I think between those three, there really shouldn't be a reason why you don't have a relatively smooth operations, whether it's from acquisitions to the closing or post closing to the asset management side. And I should say fourth, the right person in the right role. Okay, so we hired a
Okay.
new asset manager earlier this year, and she has been phenomenal because of her experience.
Mhm.
And I mean, honestly, you want to hire people who do it better than you. She 1000% does it better than myself or, our other partner Kyle. And he won't argue with that. So I'm happy to say that he would agree.
That's
Um,
good. Yeah.
but when you have those four things put in place, then you should have a smooth operation. Okay. And that's again not 100% perfect, but it should help tremendously in terms of getting things done the right way.
Beautiful. All right. So that's how you guys set up for success. Tell me about a deal or something that went wrong. How'd you fix it, and what did you learn from it? And how'd you protect your investors? What did you fix it? How'd you learn from it, and how'd you
Yeah,
protect your investors?
the one that stands out to me. So we purchased a property a couple years ago, and the week of closing, there was a gas leak on the property. Okay, and what that means is it
Okay.
was a boiler system. Okay, so the boiler generates the hot water for the entire property.
Mhm.
And that's one thing we steer away from these days is purchasing a boiler chiller because of this reason, one of the reasons. But basically, there was a gas
Yeah.
leak on the property, but we could not identify where it was leaking. Okay. And so
Okay.
what that meant was we had to shut off the gas, which meant shutting off the hot water for the entire property. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
this
Right.
is a week before Thanksgiving. Okay. So you could go at this a couple ways. You can say, you know what? The gods are speaking and it's not meant to be. And we shouldn't close on this because this is a huge deal on a property right at closing. At that same week, I'm literally this week of closing, I am at a Tony Robbins UPW event. Okay. And if you've ever been to one of these, you are literally in a cult setting, rah, rah, positivity, you can do it mindset. And
Yes.
yeah, it's just a wild event. But anyways, going through this event, I'm going through closing at the same time. And long story short, was it ideal for the gas leak to happen? No, but because we still believe so much in the property that we wanted to continue, we just found the right steps to make it happen. So we closed on the property. It was such a rocky first 3 to 4 weeks in the property. The hot water did not
Yeah.
exist for 2 weeks through Thanksgiving, by the way. But we found ways to help our residents. We try to get into contact with the YMCA, the local community center, so we can get hot showers. We gave them a concession to thank you as a thank you for their patience. So we
Yeah.
were on communication
Yeah.
every single day. So not ideal. Everything went wrong that could go wrong during those 2 weeks of takeover. But we powered through it because we had the right people in place and the right communication.
I like your details about how you solved it because it people I think go, oh my God, so how you just leave them without hot water for 2 weeks? It's like, no, because you're going to have an exodus from your building, right? The problem solving has to go beyond that. So you're talking about getting them hot showers, giving them concessions, recognizing that you're working on it. I assume there was some education on why gas leaks are particularly dangerous, as to why this, I mean, you really worked the
Yeah.
system with
Yeah.
them in mind.
And, we went back, we negotiated with the seller. We're like, look, you want us to close, you're going to pay for
Okay.
this gas leak fix. And so we got them to pay for that. And so you just need to brainstorm and put your brains together to find the best solution for everybody. So it all worked out in the end. It was very rocky. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. I just felt so bad that her residents didn't have hot water, especially over Thanksgiving. But that's part of the deal. You
Yeah.
just have to find the solution.
Well, it is part of the deal, but again, I love I feel like the details really teach. So thank you for giving
Sure.
us the details, really. So what does financial freedom mean to you? Like, there's a reason why. You started this conversation with what was the moment that had you choose real estate to break through to your financial freedom? And now what's the vision in your head that is the financial freedom you've been striving for
Yeah,
creating?
you know what? Ultimately, if I boil it down, it's just the freedom to choose. It's the freedom to
Okay.
choose what you wanna do in your time, where you wanna be, who you wanna be with, how you wanna spend that. That's ultimately all we're looking for. That's what you want when you retire. Like, you now have time to choose what you wanna do. If you wanna go back to work, you go back to
Yeah.
work. So that's what freedom really means. I think for me, for sure, but I think that's what a lot of people want, is just the ability to choose and not have your time and hours be dictated by somebody else. Um, and I will share, we had Russell Gray come and speak at our event over the weekend. So for those of you who don't know, he is the Real Estate Guys
Hey,
radio show co-host. He
yeah,
came and spoke,
yeah.
and one thing he said that really resonated with us was it's not just the financial, what we're not working towards just financial freedom, but we
Mhm.
have the freedom to be wealthy. If you think about us as a society and in this great country, we have those freedoms that not a lot of other countries have. And so, what do you do with that freedom is just as important. And so, I just want to put that out there too. So, we're building wealth to be
No, I love
free,
that.
but remember, we also have the freedom to be wealthy. So, what are you going to do with that wealth? And for us, it's to help others achieve that same state. So, that was super important to me.
I love that. I love every piece of that, right? I mean, I love the conversation of, financial freedom is all what we're striving for. What does that mean? It means freedom over time. For some, it's freedom over security, some sense of like, being able to be with family, leaving a legacy. Like, what does financial freedom mean to you? But also, once you are financially free, what's the responsibility in that, right? Because again, my experience of people who are financially free is that almost always in that freedom too, it's the freedom to help others. It's the freedom to make a change. It's the capacity to choose to use your time to make either your family's life calmer, better, kinder, more loving, communities more stable, more taken care of. And that there's a bit of it, Russell's, which is there's almost a bit of a responsibility in that. And then the final thought, which you slipped out in the middle, which is you're actually free to choose financial freedom. Like, I think people forget that. Like, you forget you can choose to be a financial leader right now in this exact moment. You can choose to be a financial leader in your life to get yourself to financial freedom. And that's amazing to me because when people make that choice, financial freedom starts almost immediately in their thinking. Almost immediately they're happy. Almost immediately they feel more free to make decisions. Almost immediately they feel more ambitious about getting there. Almost immediately they have more energy because they chose financial freedom as a form of leadership and personal leadership in their lives.
Agreed.
I love that. Jenny, if anybody wants to invest in your deals or they want to bring you a deal, how do they find you? How do they connect to you? What's the best way for them to reach
Absolutely.
out
So
to
I'm
you?
on all the social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Visit our website, verticalstreetventures.com. It has all of our information, our bio, our backgrounds, the fund information if you're interested in investing. Just reach out. If you can't tell, I love talking about real estate and love connecting with folks who just want to learn more. So feel free to reach out to me, shoot me an email. I'm happy to set up some time and chat.
So say that again. Vertical Street
.com.
Ventures
Mhm.
is
Yes,
the website name. .com. Beautiful. Jenny, thank you for your time. Thank you for your authenticity. Thanks for keeping it real. Real estate is rewarding and demanding. And we've got to be willing to be with both in order to be deeply successful in it. And clearly, your history has helped prepare you for being able to be stable in that process of it being both demanding and rewarding. Because, I mean, I think ultimately that's what lets us create a career out of it. It's our inner stability in being within an unusually dynamic process. So, Jenny, thank you so much. This is Christina Suter on Real Estate Breakthrough. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, YouTube, Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon TV. But you can also find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes. Tune in next week to get more information.